Okay. And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because Dalan, Joey, and I, well, yeah. If you've been with us long enough, you know the answer. Those of you that don't know, trust me, it's all for the better that we're here now. Trust me, it's much more for the better. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble all over the place. You can pretty well find me everywhere under that name. It's Shujin. Hi, good to be back with you. Let's go ahead, run the intros, and check in on everybody and make sure nobody is. I'll explain in a second. Top left-hand corner of the bingo card of North America, where there has been snow. Dalan?
Has been and still is. It stayed all day today. Now, that's not to say that it's going to stick around. I mean, where I live, if you don't like the weather, flip a coin, it'll only get worse.
Yeah, that's...
We'll see what happens.
Yes, true enough.
I mean, that's basically anywhere in the northern 50, but well.
Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Down to the right just a little bit from the Midwest of the U.S., Brigid, hi.
Hi.
Just a little bit off to the right at that point, Joey, I did not know that you were going to be joining us, so hi.
Hello. A little bit late, but I'm good.
Well, considering that the expectation was that probably not showing up. So, hi.
Let's just say this is not a Power of 10 show, is it?
No, not yet. Soon, but not now.
Soon.
We'll figure it out later. All right. And over the border and across the water and further across the water. Keep going over the water and back over to the mainland in Paris, France. Joseph, good morning.
Good morning. Just keep swimming.
Yeah, really. Tell me about it, man. So, yes, we're all here. We're all back. Yeah, the weather is definitely changing. It is what it is. I don't know about the rest of you guys. I'm trying very hard not to be keeping as much track of the news as I would like. I will go on record as to say that as far as health-wise is concerned, I'm okay. However, I think I may have broken a rib from finding out that Joe Biden on one network talking to people beat out Trump talking to people on 4 networks combined.
Wow.
So, yeah. By like 1 million viewers. So, yeah, there's that. I had a good laugh about that. You guys doing okay overall right now?
Our weather is really weird here right now. We're having to use air conditioning during the day because it's warm, and then having to use the heat at night because it's so chilly.
Yeah, that doesn't totally surprise me. As a bright side, if you got an NVIDIA graphics card on your computer, keep the window open. You can heat the house that way. Just, crank up the games to, I don't know.
Overclock them?
Well, see, the funny thing is, on this computer, when I'm booted into Linux, I don't do it on Windows. When I'm booted into Linux, I'm actually running one of those folding at home type scenarios, and normally it's running at 75% of the cores at 25% time. But when I go to bed, when I go to sleep, and it's cold, I open the window behind me so that I can keep really cold air in here, and I'll crank it up to 75 and leave it go overnight because, I mean, I'm adding a little bit to, reduction of world suck that way. Admittedly, by using a little bit more power, but really, I mean, whatever. When you're in the Buffalo area and it gets cold at night, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be one of those nights. So, hi, everybody. Of course, for those of you that are with us live, thank you, as always. You can, take advantage of the live chat, which on my screen is over here. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, it's over on that side, too. So that works out conveniently. Stephanie, I know that you're over there. Hi. Said, I've found World of Warships and World of Tanks to escape reality. At least the USA has an election this year. Yeah, I occasionally play World of Warships. I'm not good, but I do it when I just want to kind of do a blow 'em up kind of thing. Joe goes and plays World of Tanks occasionally, but it's not for any other reason other than he wants to apparently prove that he knows what to do with a very, very big gun. And usually does.
Not so much with the World of Tanks anymore. Actually, not for like the last 2 years.
Yeah. All right, never mind. And Tech, hi. I'm surprised to see you over there. I did not know that you were on and available. And there's the primed soon. Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
If anybody's wondering, it was something that Shujin and I were talking about before the show started. So talking about how to escape reality and big guns and stuff like that. Well, my escape is Warframe, which is parkouring space ninjas that are supposed to be stealthy, but amazingly have a very wide range of handheld artillery.
Yeah, well,
at their disposal. And yeah, primed soon, because they advertise so much of what the roadmap is, like what they're planning to bring in, what their new developments are. Like they've got a couple of huge updates coming. When are they going to be here? Soon. And you think about it, this game is over 10 years old, I think.
Wow.
Still going strong, still has a massive player base, and they're constantly improving it. So these guys have been showing that roadmap for years. And, when they say soon, could be a week, could be a month. So yeah, somebody put together the Primed Soon mod. And when I was looking for that image, I actually saw a few other discussions like, are they going to put this in game? It's like, well, okay, why would you want to equip your primary weapon with a Primed Soon mod? What does that mean?
Well, what amazes me is I, played EverQuest. That was my first, RPG MMO.
Yeah.
And it's still going. I mean, people are still there. And, I got sucked into that in 1997.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like another game. Okay, for a while I played World of Warcraft, but I got tired of it because I just lost interest. I played Final Fantasy 14, and I still would, except it's a monthly subscription, and employment, that kind of stuff. You know how it is.
Yes.
I mean, Warframe does not require you to pay anything. It's not pay to win. 99% of everything that you can pay for, you can grind for. And there is no pay to win, because I have seen people who are like level 28 in the game with massively decked out things that they all purchased. I have seen them get absolutely schooled by some guy who was on there for 6 months and just faithfully knew what to do and how to do it. It's not a question of what level you are. It's a question of, have you sat and actually worked out what does what?
Do you know what you're doing?
It reminds me of a guy who he used to play BattleTech. And I mean like the traditional, the tabletop game, not the computer game. And he had books, binders of papers with graphs and mathematics. He was designing his own mechs for the game, but that were based on everything he found, like all the pluses and minuses. Everything was in the rules. And whoever was moderating his game was pulling his hair out of his head, because this guy could just walk on the field and he would stomp the yard, so to speak.
But were any of his creations as cute as Little Irby?
Probably not. But it could have been ugly as sin, but when it reduces you to a smoking pile of bubbling slag, you're not really worried about aesthetics at that point.
Shujin, I saw that eyebrow there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking to myself, when somebody can walk onto a field and raffle stomp everything and everyone, yeah. That's
for those who aren't in the know, Little Irby refers to the urban mech. Basically, R2D2 with a weight problem and a seriously bad attitude.
Oh, no. This guy was not playing with little Irbies. He was up in Atlas or Battlemaster territory. He was
arguably the cutest mech.
Yeah, no, my guy was in the Zero Fox Given realm of play.
We'll keep that in
He's
mind.
like, oh, you're gonna hit me with a nuke? That's nice.
So good to have everybody with us. As those of you that are looking on video had seen, yes, tonight I am trying out another beer, Java Head Stout by, and I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, Trogs. I could be wrong, but it's got an O with a double umlaut on the top. So how very nice. Yeah, all I'm getting right now is beer, which is a little disappointing. Because, I was expecting, well, Dalan was even saying before the show, kind of expecting a little bit of coffee after tea. No, which is disappointing. So I've got nobody to blame except Tiny Tribble, who suggested it tonight, because I talked to him and video called him, and it is what it is. So, Chief, it's all your fault. Thanks. Anyway, so let me go ahead and get everything rolling. We'll get stuff to go. There is okay. There is somebody who is IMing me over on Discord. I can't go looking at Discord IMs while I'm doing the show easily. So the only way I'm going to be able to do it properly is to kind of pick up my phone. And since I have to kind of talk to the audience, I will get to your IM momentarily. So just give me a couple of moments. Actually, give me 5 minutes, because that's about the time that we've got right about now. So, with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. And I titled this one The Middle. And I know some people are probably already thinking, oh yeah, that's easy for the DJ. Stuck at the middle, whatever. Don't worry about it. Here's the problem. I am stuck in the middle with a whole bunch of people who are yelling and screaming about who you should vote for. Shouldn't a candidate be courting the vote? Shouldn't they be pulling in the people, as opposed to telling people you need to vote and effectively holding a gun to their head, metaphorically speaking? I know it's not a great situation. And I know the circular argument of, well, if we all vote third-party candidate, but then that takes votes away from, and maybe puts votes to, and changes the dynamic. So when are we going to vote for a third-party candidate? Well, we can't do it now. Well, why not? Why don't we just all vote for the third-party candidate, in which case it'll just be a complete groundswelling and it eats its own tail. The problem, as we know full well, is that you have one group on the lowercase left and other people on the lowercase right. And I'm saying it that way for a reason. It doesn't matter what type of affiliation you are. On the graph, you've got stuff on the left, you've got stuff on the right. They represent people, and it's a bell curve with the biggest bump smack dab in the middle. And whenever you're dealing with politics, when you're trying to win an election, generally speaking, yeah, you're battling for as much of that middle as you can. Because statistically speaking, that's where the greatest number of votes are to be won. You go out to one side or the other, it gets to be thin pickings because fewer and fewer are out there. But the problem is that we do have still a bell curve of voters to be won over. But the biggest problem is that what is it that you're trying to sell people on? If you're trying to win the capital L left, the progressives, I'm not using a party affiliation right here, those that are looking for the progressive ideals, typically on the left. The problem is that those that are more into what you might otherwise think of as the fringe are the ones who have been putting down their flag and saying, God damn it, this is what we want because this is what we need. And we've been telling you that we need this more and more. And why the hell aren't you listening to us? And more, that side of the bell curve, that side of the middle of the bell curve, where there are more and more people, are the ones who have become apathetic. They're the ones who think it can't be done, so why should I bother? What does my vote count for? It doesn't matter. That's a third of those who could have voted in my country the last big time. A third of the populace simply did not vote. Do I think that people should be voting a particular way? Yes. Yes, I do. Do I have a problem with telling people that they should do that? No, I got no problem with that. This time, especially in particular, I have no problems with saying it's not just go out there and vote. It's go out there and vote for the best good that you can invest in. Is the system crap right now? Absolutely. But the only way to tilt that middle is to work it from the bottom first. The only way to win the hearts and minds of this country or any population is to do the best that you can. And there are people who planted their flag and are still telling you, get your ass back over here. It's probably a good idea to listen to some of these people, see what it is that they're talking about, instead of just dismissing them out of hand. This is episode 333 on the docket, Your Honor. Uncivil protests. Whole balls has there been a lot of that going on. And we know it, and to a certain degree, we're kind of sick and tired of it. But as usual, we're not going to be talking about, well, how to solve a problem like Maria. We're going to be talking about what are these groups? What are they really trying to do? Who are they pulling in? Why? And, well, in some cases, is it worth trying to pull somebody or push somebody off of the home base for them? I don't know. And I know full well, before we get started with this all, that it's going to be incredibly contentious. Immensely so. So, if this is going to be upsetting, please know full well that we're going to do our damnedest not to really get instigative with anybody. We're not going to yell, we're not going to scream, and we're not going to talk down to anybody. Even if we end up with anybody in the chat who might, because once in a while this happens, we're not going to go ahead and rag on people in our chat, even if they end up being trolls, if they show up. So, we're going to do our best to be who we usually are. So keep that in mind. Yes, Tech, I know it was you, and I will get to you your thing momentarily. I did go looking up information on Rafe Badawi. We have no new information at this time. Again, double-edged sword. So as of the recording of tonight's show, it has now been 8 years, 4 months, 2 days since Rafe Badawi was unjustly incarcerated for thought crimes. Our hopes and our thoughts are still with you and your family. We are still waiting. So with that out of the equation, let me take a quick look and see what was going on over on Discord very quickly, because, you know, I can do it on my phone while we're doing all this, but if I try to do it on the computer while this is all going on, that would be bad. Okay. Short version. Tech has basically said he'd be willing to join us or sit in the chat. You know, I'm of the opinion that, you know, maybe we should just, you know, sit him in the timeout corner, because, you know, he's been a big old pain in my ass the last couple hours. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. You know what? I'll figure it out. Then again, it's not like we pay him. Oh, you know what? Fine. Let me turn off the video for a couple of seconds. I'll pull him in. You guys make sure that you've got the horrible scopes on, and I will turn off the video temporarily. 3, 2, 1. And I will pull him in. And add him. And boom.
Test 1, 2.
Check is in the mail.
You. We got you.
And my video is being weird. There we go. That's better. Hi, Tech.
Hi, guys.
You know, it's good to have you back, but I can't help but think that maybe just a little maybe you don't have a social life again anymore. I'm really worried about you now.
Well, in a way, I don't have a social life anymore. That's physical.
I was going to say, who among us really does these days? I mean, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a weekly thing that I did with a group of people that were from all sorts of different walks of life. And it's all now, you know.
Yeah, so did I.
You can do the online thing, but nobody really wants to do the online thing.
Yeah, I mean, so did I. But again, that kind of died because, well, we couldn't exactly do it the online thing because, well, it was an actual competition that we were doing. So,
and for us, before the pandemic, we were trying to figure out how to continue to do the online thing. It wasn't like we didn't have the options or the tech. It was conflicting schedules, work schedules, life schedules, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still sort of like that in some cases.
Alrighty. Well, now that we've got you, which, by the way, good to have you, let's go ahead, do the nice fun stuff, and we'll kind of come back around and get to the, you know, the crux of the thing. So, folks, it is time for your horrible scopes for this week. I did tell Joey and Dalan what was special about them this week because I started them, got 3/4 of the way through it, and completely trashed it and started all over again for a good reason. If you don't figure it out by the end, I'll explain when we get there.
Guessing over the fact that we normally go in order of introduction, since I is technically the last, that means I actually go after Joseph this time.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
Cool.
All right. So,
mix it up a bit.
So we'll get you going over here. So, starting off, Aries. If you could only sense how important you are to the lives of those you meet, how important you can be to the people you may never even dream of, there is something of yourself that you leave at every meeting with another person.
Taurus. It's not so much what we have in this life that matters. It's what we do with what we have. The world needs a sense of worth, and it will achieve it only by its people feeling that they are worthwhile.
And we live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's easy to say, it's not my child, not my community, not my world, not my problem. Then there are those who see the need and respond. I consider those my heroes.
Cancer Moonchild. Nobody else can live the life you live. Even though no human being is perfect, we always have the chance to bring what's unique about us to live in a redeeming way. Often when you think that you're at the end of something, you're at the beginning of something else.
Joseph?
You're muted.
Damn you. All right. Neo, people have said, don't cry to other people for years and years, and all it has ever meant is, I'm too uncomfortable when you show your feelings. Don't cry. I'd rather have them say, go ahead and cry. I'm here to be with you. There is no normal life that is free of pain. It is the wrestling with our problems that can be the impetus for our growth.
Virgo. Solitude is different from loneliness, and it doesn't have to be a lonely kind of thing. Little by little, we human beings are confronted with situations that give us more and more clues that we are not perfect. Knowing that we can be loved exactly as we are gives us all the best opportunity for growing into the healthiest of people.
Libra. Normally we'd be telling you something to do for a job, but you'll have to pick that up next week. Peace means far more than the opposite of war. Forgiveness is a strange thing. It can sometimes be easier to forgive our enemies than our friends. It can be hardest of all to forgive people we love. Like all of life's important coping skills, the ability to forgive and the capacity to let go of resentments most likely take root very early in our lives.
Scorpio. I think it's very important, no matter what you do professionally, to keep alive some of the healthy interests of your youth. Children's play is not just kids' stuff. Children's play is rather the stuff of most future inventions.
Just curious. Imagine what our real neighborhoods would be like if each of us offered, as a matter of course, just one kind word to another person. Real strength has to do with helping others. The greatest gift you ever give is your honest self.
Capricorn. Some days, doing the best we can may still fall short of what we would like to be able to do. But life isn't perfect on any front. And doing what we can with what we have is the most we should expect of ourselves or anyone else. There are 3 ways to ultimate success. The first way is to be kind. The second way is to be kind. The third way is to be kind.
Joseph?
Yep, Aquarius. There are times when explanations, no matter how reasonable, just don't seem to help. In times of stress, the best thing we can do for each other is listen with our ears and our hearts and to be sure that our questions are just as important as our answers.
Pisces. You rarely have time for everything you want in this life, so you need to make choices. And hopefully your choices can come from a deep sense of who you are. Who you are inside is what helps you make and do everything in life. In a way, you've already won in this world because you're the only one who can be you.
For those of you that are wondering why do these horrible scopes sound very, very different, it's because this week we had a very special author. Mr. Fred McFeely Rogers. All of these quotes are his. And for anyone that wants to go ahead and say that a political candidate is akin to listening to Mr. Rogers and use that derisively, to quote somebody else from Twitter, you've already lost before you've gotten out of the gate with that.
Well, if you want to take the last one, Pisces, Oscar Wilde also said it quite well. He said, be yourself, because everybody else is taken.
That's an excellent one. I've never heard that.
That's a good one.
And I forget where it came from, but and I'm only paraphrasing it because I can't remember the exact quote, but it's more noble to be you in a world that's trying to get you to be like them.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
That's about as punk as it gets, isn't it?
I was punk rocker and a headbanger back in the day.
Can you write that out into the chat?
Yeah, again, I don't know the full phrase of it, but
yeah, but just the gist of it.
I think it was actually more in a world where everybody's trying to get you to be like them. It's crap. Somebody play that back for me. My brain just farted.
Yeah, we'll get it for you in post. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine.
Get it for you in post.
You're gonna have to wait for a day or two.
I'd love to know. I'd love to know when it was written too.
I should change my name from UnrenownedTech to Goldfish Tech. Ooh, shiny.
Yeah, we'll keep that in mind. So those are your horoscopes for this week. If you want them, they'll be posted to various outlets when I start working on the next ones next week. So, or you could just pull up some of Mr. Rogers' shows and take a look.
Yeah,
good people.
Before we go on, would it possibly be, Tech, be who you are, not what others want you to be?
No,
Okay.
That's still a good
it's
one.
close, but that's still a good one. I think the one that I remember growing up was probably predicated on that base.
No worries. So, like I said, there's been stuff that's been very, very, very unhappy in the news. I want to touch on a couple of them very briefly, and then kind of go into the actual topic, because again, it's one of these things where it's all tangentially related. I don't know if I said it right or not. I don't care at this point. And as opposed to, starting down the main, I want to kind of hit a couple of items real quick. Starting off with you, Joseph, because I cannot for the life of me believe that this time the news did not make it your way about that teacher.
Yeah, it's been it got to me through my workplace, my colleagues talking about it because I've been in my own bubble for a while. But well, what can I say about it? I mean,
well, the quick and dirty synopsis, just so that we kind of know what we're talking about.
Oh, you want a review? Yeah. Well, basically, I forget the name of the town, but a teacher was assassinated for showing pictures of Muhammad in their class. It was a class on about free speech, and the teacher apparently before. It's funny, they have different versions. Because basically, one of the students' teachers in this class called the school after, and he told the school that I'm not sure who the call was to, but sorry, you're gonna have to fill in the blanks for that. But anyways, he complained about it, and his story was that the teacher had told all the Muslim students to leave. And the school's version of the story is that, and the other students, their version of the story is that he gave them the option to leave. Because the teacher said he was showing some pictures that were offend some. So, anyways, it was basically I think it was showing there are some 14th century depictions of Muhammad before the ban on iconic representation was put into place, and that's basically what it was showing. It was showing the control of speech and all that. And so, anyways, yeah, one of the students stayed and complained to her father. So this is called the school got, or whoever got, and well, that was the complaint. And a couple weeks after, the teacher was assassinated by an 18-year-old. Actually, the teacher had their head cut off.
You know,
And the perpetrator was shot. And that's also you can find that on video.
It's a chilling reminder. I mean, when we got started on this show all those years ago, we talked about stuff like this a lot. And lately, of course, like with a lot of shows that start down that road, you know, things have gotten very political as of late, given understandable circumstances. But, you know, just because, you know, we're so focused on that kind of stuff, the world is still turning, you know, outside of that bubble. And that there is just, you know, that's a chilling reminder of why we got started in this kind of stuff in the first place, is to prevent that level of crazy from proliferating.
Yeah, from existing in its own way. I'm sorry. Forgive me for chuckling. Something was put into our chat that caught me a little off guard, and just trust me when I say it's chuckle worthy on that one. We also ended up having something, and just so you guys know, this one is going to be more directed for Brigid and Joey because, well, it'll make sense in a couple of moments. We had a citizens militia group, and I use the term loosely because, well, these guys aren't exactly what you would call well-regulated, unless you consider that the well-regulation part is probably for their cholesterol levels, which are probably on the higher side of why. They were conspiring to kidnap, abduct the Michigan governor for the whole, we want to keep you safe, so let's stop interacting with each other socially. And these idiots wanted to, according to the sheriff, perhaps all they wanted to do was to execute, bad choice of words perhaps, a felony arrest under some supposed legality that somehow or other I don't think holds any water. And, well, the expectation was, from all the information that was gathered, thank you FBI, was that she would have been abducted, she would have been put onto something resembling a trial. I believe the expression is kangaroo court, I could be wrong, and then summarily executed. So that's all well and good, I say tongue-in-cheek, and the reason why I want Joey and Brigid to chime up on this one, because several of the people who are involved and who are under arrest for this and under indictment for this are ex-military, including Marines. So, knowing that, and knowing the oath that you would have taken for, I believe the expression is for defending the Constitution. I'm kind of wondering. I know I'm paraphrasing very highly here, I'm kind of wondering what you guys have got to say about this, or what you feel about this kind of thing.
I mean, we took an oath that we would uphold and defend the Constitution. And it blows my mind that we have these unregulated militias that, they were actually very close at pulling this off.
I was afraid you were about to say pull the trigger on this. Thank you.
Pulling this off. And I read, actually went back and read the text of the indictments and, all the information that they gathered, and these people had actually found her other home that she normally goes to, completed surveillance. They made IEDs to try to, distract law enforcement away from her house, and were very close to pulling this off. And then they ended up wanting to kidnap this other governor.
Sorry.
And I forget the state, but he was included on their list as well.
Joe, the reason why I also wanted to get yours on this one is because one of the people that was mentioned in one article that I was reading was waiving some court proceeding or whatever the hell it was, and staying in jail or whatever the case was be. So my thing about this, and the reason why I want to hit you on this one, is with all that we've dealt with thus far, the idea that there could be potentially federal charges, and knowing how wonderfully loose and goosey the head honcho has been with saying, you know what, I'll just go ahead and stay those federal charges for you. I kind of wonder if maybe, just maybe, that could come down the pike, and how you, as somebody who was also military and took several for the team, would feel about such a thing.
I get where people like this come from, because I've heard this kind of fucking... Sorry.
At this point, don't worry about it. All things considered with this, go for it. I don't care, really.
I've heard this kind of rhetoric before. Well, I took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Yeah, and you know what? You also took an oath to obey the laws of, as silly as it might seem, the laws of war. You also agreed to escalation force, rules of engagement, all that. So, again, we have somebody who's cherry picking out of whatever book they want to be looking into.
Oh, gee, where have we seen this tactic before?
Took the words right out of my mouth.
What tickles me is that anybody who thinks that Trump is going to rescue, I'm
use it. I know where you're going. Do it.
No.
Yes.
Shh, let me finish my thought, damn it.
Why?
Because it's my turn to speak. You've had yours.
He's right.
Sorry?
No, he's right.
I don't want to resort to name calling here, so I'm just going to say, this fella, if he even dreams that Trump is going to try to step in to help him out, I've got a little thing for you. You see, there is a little thing called the UCMJ. And it's a funny thing about the UCMJ. You see, just because you get out of the military doesn't mean you're exempt from it. acts that can be considered war crimes, yeah, there is no statute of limitations as far as the UCMJ is concerned. For those of you who are wondering why I keep using those 4 letters, Uniform Code of Military Justice, a system of laws and legal proceedings that are completely separate from our civil law. And to say that the rules, regulations, and punishments involved with UCMJ are somewhat, shall we say, draconian, is to put it lightly. They're also very damn effective. So, yeah, here's the thing. Mr. El Presidente doesn't really have a whole lot of sway with the UCMJ because he's not the one who calls the shots on it.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm having a flashback to that lady that was in the car going to church and saying that she was covered in the blood of Jesus.
Yeah.
I can actually hear this dude talking to somebody on the news going, "I'm covered in the blood of Donald Trump," as if to say, like, you know, he will be vindicated. He will be pardoned. You know, the same kind of delusion that the lady was thinking.
Yeah. And the guy may, Trump may make promises of pardons and all that, but the thing is that courts, even military courts, they know how to make it happen lickety split, or take their sweet freaking time. And if Trump's not in office when it finally gets to the before the judge and everything, good luck.
Yeah, and as a slight aside, covered in the blood of Donald Trump. I don't remember blood being yellow, but I mean, I might be kind of tipping back to a much older news cycle.
Okay, actually, you know, oh boy, I cannot believe I'm going here. Oh,
real quick though, my final point is this: the UCMJ ain't your homegrown cuddly wuddly Justice Department. You see, UCMJ, we don't do lethal injection. We don't do life imprisonment. No, we still have hanging and firing squads on the books. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
To the best of my recollection, the original and only death penalty for a civilian in the Constitution originally was for oh God, what the hell was what was the term? For treason. Mm-hmm. That was the only one on the books originally. So yeah. And let's not forget, even if somebody was pardoned by El Presidente and they accepted it, that means that they're still guilty. Because you can't be pardoned.
Oh, that reminds me. Thank you for reminding me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no such thing as double jeopardy under UCMJ.
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah,
he's not wrong.
There's no such thing as double jeopardy under UCMJ.
That's troublesome to me.
But effective.
Mm-hmm. Well, so it was a 45 to the back of the skull, but I mean, I don't know that I necessarily particularly care for that idea. But that's just me.
Well, if you had to choose between a 22 or a 45 to the back of the skull, I think I'd rather have the 45 because I know it would get the job done.
It'll cure what ails you.
Well, I wasn't referring in terms of like suicide. And by the way, people, if you know somebody who's suicidal, please reach out, get help, let them know that you're there for them, that sort of thing. I meant in terms of like a firing squad, for doing something heinous. do I want the 22 or do I want the 45? I don't want to live through the first shot.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
more morbid as it may sound, there are some things you really don't want to live through.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and meanwhile, you got me thinking back to the movie Running Scared back in '89 with Billy Crystal. You know what?
Yep.
I'd much rather
That
get
was a
hit.
good movie.
I'd much rather get shot with one of those pissant 22s than with my 38. That's I'll need to link
I
a
gotta
clip
go
to that
find
later.
that movie again.
Yeah, that was a good movie. That was a good movie. Back when Jimmy Smits was still a drug runner instead of president of the United States of America. Yeah, you guys might want to look that one up. That's
Or
that's a good thing.
King of Alderaan.
They yeah. Got a little hot under the collar for that one though, if I remember right. But it is what it is. All right, so here's the deal. The reason why I wanted to kind of go down those briefly. These problems, these two in particular, are because of, well, mob mentality. It's kind of hard to ignore that. Ideological. All right. I know I'd really try. I say it all the time. I really try to be like a professional with dealing with all this whole damn thing, but I'm feeling far more like just a panelist for a minute. I know that sounds kind of stupid to put it this way, but this is kind of the way that works in my head. I still, for the life of me, cannot understand that there are people in this world that band together for the explicit reason of finding people who are the out group and, well, unaliving them, to borrow a line from Deadpool. It's a long story. I can understand that there are people who want to blame and shame people for reasons, usually. But it comes down to people want to gather in groups with the explicit position of they are not part of our group, they need to die? I'm sorry. I don't get that.
You think about what's going on out there, though, these days with all the fear and rage. Like, okay, dial it back a few decades. You've got groups like the KKK. They were the same thing. They banded together to target a particular group of people who had a slightly different skin tone than members of said group.
Yeah.
With the purpose of making sure they knew their place by any means necessary. And in some cases that did involve some pretty heinous acts. And again, I'm being delicate here, but I mean, let's face it, these guys were bullies, they were killers, they were assaulters, they were everything bad. I would not go that far, because they weren't going after criminals. They were going after anybody who was different. Most vigilantes, vigilante in the context I think of are people who,
they are not law enforcement, but they do the job that law enforcement isn't able to do.
Yeah, isn't able to, or should be able to, in that person's mind. And okay, having said that, I might have just contradicted myself there. But you got groups like that, and I mean, these days, I mean, before a lot of this happened, I mean, stand-up comics were treating those guys like a joke, because they really are. Because that which they stand for is so stupid. The purity of the white race. Give me a break.
The purity of the white race started the same place as everybody else's, in Africa.
Yeah. But
hold on.
Hmm?
I understand the whole give me a break. As a Jew, Not a practicing one, just culturally speaking here.
That's all right.
I gave up religion a while ago.
Yeah, I was getting to that, actually.
But culturally speaking, as a Jew, I actually do understand something about their mentality, of their worry about their purity, their worry about the way they see it, of basically being wiped off the map, that sort of thing, blending in and losing their identity. Sure, is it a bunch of malarkey? Yeah, I've got Irish, Italian, and a bunch of other things going on. So anyway, yeah, it really is. It's something that they shouldn't have to worry about. It's something that nobody should have to worry about, because we're all human beings on this planet, and we're all one people, regardless of skin color, ethnicity, where on the planet we grew up from, who our parents were. We're all human beings, and that's something that we've forgotten. But for some, it's drilled into them at a very early age, before they have the ability to think, use their logic and reasoning skills for themselves. It's the same way with religions, okay? You get them while they're young, and because their parents before them and their parents before them and their parents before them, it takes on a life of its own. There are plenty of examples where white supremacists, especially in this country, have sat down and talked and come away and ceased to be a white supremacist. There was that one black minister or pastor that did that with like 200 plus KKK members. That
his name was Daryl Davis, and he's actually just a blues musician. That's all he was.
Blues musician. I thought he was a reverend.
Nope. At least not as far as I know.
I thought he dressed like one anyway.
Yeah.
It may just be that, it may just be perspective. But the point is that he sat down with them, and he met them on their terms. He met them at their bars and roadhouses and things like that. And he sat and he listened to them, and in turn, he spoke to them and had them listen to him. And he validated them, and then he had them validate him. And he showed them respect, and in turn, they ended up, whether they wanted to or not, they ended up showing him respect. But it happened over conversation. It happened over calm. And that is something that this current administration doesn't allow for. That is something that a lot of groups aren't allowing either. I have said it before in the past, over however hundreds of shows that we've had, that when you have a group, one side yelling, whether the other side is yelling or not is immaterial. When you have just one side yelling, the listening has stopped. And the yelling has been, even before the pandemic, been escalating. And it's not just Antifa. It's not just the white supremacist. We've seen it in every single movement. Groups that I've associated with have done it, and much to shame for that. Splinters of those groups, going, oh, you guys are yelling, we're going to go off and do our own little thing over here. And that's how groups tend to break up and become other little fragments around and around and around. If you're yelling, you're not listening. And there is a whole lot of yelling going on. And when you listen to some of the candidates, they're using calm language. They're addressing people respectfully. They're not trying to get people stirred up. In most cases, in some topics, there is a little bit of stirring up, because there is a need to get a little bit of. There's a difference between giving a little bit of energy to a group, and then basically yelling bomb in a movie theater. Big difference in energy levels. Getting somebody a little bit excited about something, that might be a good thing, especially when used, in moderation. Using it nonstop with as much energy and force as you can put behind it, you're going to get flash mobs. You're going to get riots. You're going to get a lot of things.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hold that thought, because, Joseph, I want to kind of bring this over your way again. Kind of talking about that. You remember? Oh Jesus, when the hell was it? Was it was that 14 or 16 when Charlie Hebdo attack happened? I forget which year it was, but it was.
I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we kind of talked about it a little bit at the time, but
2015.
15. Oh, see that? I was right around it. 14, 15, 16. Can't hit the target. All right.
Horseshoes.
Yeah. But that's kind of the same thing. Sorry, there's something analogous to that.
This is why, I want to take the conversational. I want to take the conversation a bit further down the rabbit hole, because basically what we need to look at is, why humans are open to beliefs like that, and why we are so credulous, and we have to get to understanding ourselves more. We're seeing that it's like history repeating. To continue, like what Tech was just saying, you're getting the action reaction kind of thing, but what to look at underneath that is that if you take somebody who can reason, let's just say the road to anger is a lot longer, and usually anger comes about only after all possibilities of reason have been exhausted. Whereas somebody who lives in a survive by imitation mode, anything outside of the bubble is seen as a danger, and probably will instill a panic response or some extreme sort of response. So when we're looking at politics these days, we have people dictating to other people what they should or shouldn't do, or should or shouldn't think, and then other people in the same mindset being offended by it. And then you get the reactions. And at the politician level, where you got politicians fighting each other because whatever the other's saying doesn't correspond to their quote-unquote worldview or imitation bubble, whatever you want to call it. And then you have all their followers basically executing their orders or reacting to their reactions. So you need both a leadership and a followship in this mindset for this kind of situation to arise.
Yet if anybody doesn't want to acknowledge the fact of that, we talked about it last week. At this point, right now here in the United States, the Republican Party, who is the one that Donald Trump is the head of currently because he's president, which is just daft to me. Anyway, they've already decided that their platform for the party has nothing to do with economic ideals. It has no idea on anything other than, quite literally, whatever Mr. Trump wants to do is what we're for. I'm paraphrasing it because I don't know exactly how they worded it, but it doesn't really much matter. That is what it comes down to. So to say, to ever wonder, well, no, there can't be just a guy at the head and just fanatical people behind and following along. No, that's exactly where we find ourselves currently. And to say that this is not like post-World War I Germany is absolutely daft.
That's exactly what I wanted to say earlier. If you want to know what the Weimar Republic was like before Hitler rose to power, I think we're getting a pretty good, real life reenactment right now.
And there is one thing I just need to get off my chest real quick.
Yeah.
Anybody who's listening to this happens to be a member of the group. Jews for Trump. You guys need to go talk to your grandparents, okay, and have a serious conversation. All right? Get some latkes, get some matzah, get some wine, whatever. but you've forgotten your history. You really have. And you people make me ashamed of my heritage.
Yeah, we've talked about this on too damned many occasions. Joey has reminded us on too damn many occasions. If you want to, okay, Joe, back and forth with me on this one just a little bit. Post World War One Germany. One of the biggest things was the economy was in an absolute free fall because they needed to make restitution for World War One, so they basically just printed money. That sounds very similar to what's currently going on. There wasn't a war per se, but there's the constant ramp up of more and more and more money into the dot mil category that can't be paid off anytime really soon. These two sound very analogous to each other, you think? Joey?
I think he's got his headset turned off too.
Oh. Well, I just looked over at the thing and he said he's going to be right back. Well, that just sucks for me because I was... Okay, you know what? Any other history buffs want to go ahead and say yes or no on that one so far?
Honestly, I don't have enough. I don't know enough about post World War One Germany, except that. Well, I had a history teacher who said that World War II was really not much more than just the continuation of World War One after a big pause. And
from a nationalist point of view, yeah, but they tried to paint it like that because I mean, World War One. It's funny.
Yeah, it was.
I was helping my brother with his university, with a paper he was writing for the university, and it happened to be on the first Versailles, the Treaty of Versailles, the first one.
Yeah.
And Germany was basically humiliated. They had a debt that would probably, the German people be paying probably beyond their grandchildren's lifetime. And yeah, and it was also was a bit of an industrial crisis. But I mean, yeah, you really to understand that. I mean, you have to look at the context of the times too, because it was a recession after the World War, and it's kind of like the economic state was kind of like what it is now. Which means the industrials had all the wealth, and the public were, well, the working poor, which is for me just the form of slavery. Yeah, they were feeling downtrodden by the industrialists at the time. Industrials? What do you say?
No, you're right. Industrialists.
Okay. And yeah, they were feeling downtrodden, and so of course the leaders of the time, well, they shifted all of this frustration onto onto others. You know, the fact that Germany was humiliated, and then they found the scapegoat. You know, their tirade, against the Jews. Yeah, basically it's the others. And I mean, it's the same thing going on now. I mean, you've got, look at the state of things in the United States. I mean, the wealth disparity, I mean, the stage is set exactly the same way.
Yep.
You've got middle class, which is been practically emptied, who is suffering. And, well, what's the leadership doing? Well, finding other people to blame it on.
Yep. Anything that would be towards helping the public good, those funds keep getting whittled away and whittled away and whittled away. For example, for public health care, for public education, those numbers keep getting whittled away, and you need to work better with less money that you've got.
Well, and not even that. Also, the fact that, you know, a lot of the jobs that would generate the kind of money that people could have to get this kind of stuff, basically to maintain a national economic base, they're not there anymore because they were all outsourced so that the corporate elites could rake in like tons of profits by having their shoes or their iPhones or their anything made by people and paying them 50 cents a day if they were lucky, and then having it shipped over here to a consumer base who is marketed the hell out of. And oh, you can't afford $1,200 for the iPhone fuck your wallet edition? Here,
Without adapter.
Yeah, let's put you on a payment plan that'll just put you in our clutch, or sorry, that'll help finance you, and you can just pay it off later at 3,000% interest.
Now, is there any effective difference between there not being jobs if the jobs have been voluntarily removed from the public versus the jobs no longer exist because the countryside has been bombed to hell by aircraft?
There is a difference.
Absolutely, there is a difference.
Because when the jobs have been bombed from the aircraft, it usually means that, you know what, they were here, they need to be here again. So when the bombing stops, let's rebuild. When the jobs are voluntarily taken away by some corporate guy who says, you know, instead of making $5 billion, I could make $6 billion if I outsource my widget refining system to China. Or actually, no, strike that. I can make, instead of making $4 billion, I can make $5 billion if I outsource my pharmaceutical manufacturing company to China. What's the worst that could happen?
And there's part of the problem.
And then
the other
COVID came knocking, and we found out exactly what could happen.
The other thing that happens is you see companies who didn't want to give up certain things, like IBM not wanting to give up God, my brain farted because I haven't said the word in such a long time. Retirement plans. But they ultimately had to stay competitive because so many other companies had given up retirement plan offerings that they couldn't keep certain profit margins unless they got rid of those retirement plans and took the money that would have gone into a retirement plan and put it instead into the shareholders, into the three-letter acronyms. So there should actually be 4 letters, in my opinion. Yeah. Anyway, but the point is that a lot of companies ended up getting rid of things that benefited their employees, that showed the loyalty to the employees of their companies. And they claimed it was to stay competitive. And in some cases, it was. And in other cases, it was used as an excuse because it could be. And because the people allowed it to happen, and it really is on the people as a whole that it allowed it to happen.
That's really...
It's a fine line, of course, because when you have no job and you need a job and you've got Walmart, you know, and we all know what kind of company Walmart, how they treat their employees, and not in the positive way, but you've got food to put on the table and a roof to keep over your head. Sometimes people bite the bullet. It's a tricky how to keep the corporations in check. Yeah. And when you have politicians who aren't keeping the corporations helping to, you've got even more problems.
Joseph.
Well, yeah, and in many cases, they're helping those corporations.
Hold on, Joseph.
But in all that, also, you have to. You're calling it a fine line, but we really have to look at where the line is, and I really think it's between somebody who depends on the system to tell them what they can and can't do, what they should or shouldn't do. Yeah, well, somebody like that, working for biting the bullet and working for Walmart is one thing. But I mean, somebody else who has gotten into the habit of thinking for themselves in that kind of situation is something quite other. Somebody who knows, why they have no other option. Because I think there's a lot of people that look at the Trump voters voting against their own interests. I mean, they don't seem to have the ability to really understand their own plight. You've got people who understand their own plight, and you've got people who don't, basically. So, if you understand your own plight and you have to work at Walmart, well, things are pretty fucking desperate.
I'm almost resembling that remark, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I'm in a position now where I've been out of work since January. Probably might have had a job very early on in the year if it hadn't been for the pandemic. Still looking, putting out 5-6 job ads a day when I can. I'm not hearing anything back from anybody. And yeah, I'm starting to look at some of those maybe not the best option, but might not have any other option type job, like Walmart, or like there's this one pyramid scheme that I might want to go back and revisit, even though I don't want to become a salesman, but I might not have a choice. And you think now with the pandemic, with so many businesses closing, like I can't remember how many it was in New York City alone. I think it was like 2/3 of the small businesses that have closed because of this are not coming back. The people who started those businesses could not afford to keep them afloat in these lean times. They ended up shutting down. They don't have the capital to even try to think about restarting them. And at this point right now, it doesn't look like New York's going to be open anytime soon anyway, for obvious reasons. So what do those people do? You've got people who are scared, who are desperate, and when they see people like Whitmer and others saying we're going to stay locked down, they stop there. They don't hear the rest of it where she tries to justify it because we're trying to limit the spread or we're trying to keep you safe. They don't hear that because how can they be safe if they don't have any money and they could be kicked out on the street the next day because the landlord doesn't care whether or not you're working because there's 500 people behind you that have the money that they want.
Yeah, and hold on that for a second because this kind of keeps going. The economic part that I was going for was the difference between outsourcing versus getting bombed out. Yeah, exactly right. It's worse when it's freely given away for the explicit idea of earning more for yourself later. But with the economic part also, there is another piece that also rolls us back into post World War I Germany, which, by the way, 1 second, really quickly, Stephanie had pointed out correctly, the classic use a wheelbarrow to take your pay to the shops on your way home to get food while your money is enough to buy it. For anybody that doesn't know about the German hyperinflation situation, that is not hyperbole. That was quite real. It was not unusual for the price of a loaf of bread from the morning to the afternoon to no longer be the same amount of money and be out of range of some people to buy.
It's coming.
Yeah. Now,
with you guys, with the trillions of dollars you guys have put out in stimulus and stuff, I mean, it was a short-term fix, but there are going to be consequences.
Yeah.
And what was that inflation? I mean, we really have to look at it because, I mean, the inflation has nothing to do with government. The government has to deal with it one way or another, but it has to do. Once again, we're going to the mentality of the masses. because
Yeah, you're going almost exactly where I was taking this to. The problem becomes where those insecurities and those fears start to grab their way into the populace. What happened back then was you need a boogeyman to blame everything on instead of internalizing it and working with it. For Germany, it was the outsiders. It was the Jews. It was the gypsies. It was those that were not the racially pure. Sorry?
It was the non-conformists. The racial pure part is just a cosmetic add-on.
Yep. The low people and the high people.
Yep.
Well, no. It's people because Germany, they like Hitler, and it's possible that Hitler wasn't even the source of all this shit. He was just.
Oh no, Hitler! If Hitler just continued what was already going on.
Well, yeah,
he made it worse.
He was pandering because it's basically the industrialists who wanted just their source of cheap labor to continue, so they can continue making their profits. But yeah, basically, Hitler wanted a complacent, believing people. Just he wanted to decide what the country should be. He wanted to decide for others instead of them deciding for themselves. And that's it. Basically, everybody in his camps were those who would not conform to this centralized, dictatorship, whatever you want to call it.
Yep. And what ended up happening was they chose a boogeyman to blame everything on and to unite the people, because nothing unites people more than having a common enemy, it would seem. And the nationalist, yes, I'm saying it right, the nationalist call to arms, so to speak, was stoked by, as was said, Hitler. He was an orator who basically said, follow me, we'll go after the boogeyman together, and then prosperity will abound.
But once again, we have to underline, it's only going to unite people who will not take responsibility or think to their own existence. It works only on them, and anybody actually thinking for themselves is an outlier. And we're kind of in this situation now. I mean, people who are taking responsibility for their own survival, who are fully aware of what's happening to them, they're a minority. And if things continue to escalate, they're going to be targeted once again.
And that's exactly the same thing that's happening here. The boogeyman is, well, the other side. It doesn't even have to be...
Atheist.
I'm sorry?
Atheists.
No.
Well, that's just one example.
Okay, you know what? You're right, and I'm sorry.
It's the same mindset. That's all I want to say.
No, and you're quite right. As a matter of fact, I should have grabbed onto that one also, because what I'm talking about of the other side, politically speaking, here in the U.S., it's doesn't really matter who you're talking to, unfortunately, because in a lot of cases it's the other side. Doesn't matter what the argument is. There is the common boogeyman that you want to go after in order to deal with things. And unfortunately, when you're the ones in the most power and you go ahead and you ramp up the nationalist jingo and you claim that there is the boogeyman that must be eradicated for the good of all so that there can be peace and prosperity, I can talk, and will make everything better again, it's exactly the same damn thing. What Joseph...
But there's one thing just I'd like to underline here is the dynamic that's going on. It's really, you have a greater, you have a majority telling the minority, quote unquote, what they are. I mean, like, how many times have you seen, like, the atheist experience, like, evangelists calling into the show, and, they have their definition of atheism, and they were told that atheists are X, Y, that's different. X, Y, Z.
No, that's perfectly fine, and you're right,
but
exactly.
It's during the Second World War, well, what do you have? You have the leadership telling what Jews, quote unquote, are with their fucking, propaganda, hook nose, whatever.
Yeah.
Their posters and shit. And I mean, it's exactly the same dynamic, and we all through history, probably since 2,000 years. They've been getting better and better at it, because nowadays you don't need religion to do that kind of shit. You just need a means of communication and a message.
Yeah, but back onto the religion part and staying away from the political part for a second, exactly what happened in France is almost exactly the same thing, just take the economics out of it. The teacher did not agree with the way that the Muslim community thought should be behavior. And because of that, because it was a threat to their rules of behavior, they decided that punishment had to be made for whatever this boogeyman represented, which technically was art appreciation, appreciation of what qualifies as moral behavior.
No, the teacher was showing examples of works that have offended people in the past, basically.
Right.
Like some of the works that were written that were actually burned by the fascists. Examples like that, and I think these depictions of Muhammad was one of them, and I think part of the explanation was that it didn't make any sense because before I think it was the 15th century or 14th century, I forget, but depictions of Muhammad were perfectly allowed, and they actually, they're going against their own rules. So anyway, so he's basically trying to explain the irrationality of it all.
Right, and where I was coming from was the idea that it wouldn't have mattered if they were looking at it from the standpoint of art appreciation or morality or a historical use of specific pigments or canvas. It wouldn't have mattered. It was a matter that this was against their doctrine, their ideological position of how people should comport themselves, and apparently the punishment for not following our rules of how to live, well, apparently is no longer to live.
I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, because I mean, I'd really like to understand the human behavior aspect of this more. And if I had access to an fMRI, I would like to see what goes on in the brain of somebody like a Muslim, extremist, somebody integrist, I don't know what you call it, somebody extremely into the religion. What would happen what happens in the brain if you actually show them a picture of Muhammad or somebody speaking against?
Sorry, I'll let you finish. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, but that's about it. That's all.
Yeah.
I would like to actually see what goes on in the brain of, people submitted the same questionnaire, people from a rational.
Yeah.
I'd like to see which parts of the brains are working, because I mean, we can't read other people's minds, and like I'm doing my best to observe human behavior and just draw some conclusions from that. But
personally, I'd like to see that expanded out just from religious reactions. I'd like to see that with some of the social things that we see these days. Like, one bad thing about being unemployed is social media is a guilty pleasure / I really have nothing else to do and I'm caught up on all my web comics, so what else am I going to look at? And to see how some people react and how they are breaking their fingers on their keyboards from typing so hard or tapping on their touch screens, reference from last night. I'd like to see that same thing That's doom scrolling. That's exactly what I do these days, and that's probably explains why I'm not the sunny, cheerful individual that you guys always knew me for. I'm a bit of a grouch these days.
Doom
But
scrolling.
but what I'd like to see is like what you said, Joseph, about hooking somebody up to one of these like this fMRI that you said, and okay, let's put a leftist in one of these things, and let's make them sit through a Trump rally, a televised Trump rally where they can't switch it off, where they have to sit and listen, and let's see the reactions. Conversely, let's take a Trump supporter or an extreme right winger, plop in that same chair, make them watch a Joe Biden rally or town hall, or just to see. I wonder if going through that we could somehow key into why this is happening so much, what the reactions are, and maybe from there we can find out that okay, maybe there's something we can do about this. Not necessarily from a medical perspective, but maybe just from some other approach.
Well, like it's still in critical thought, but I mean, what you described there is actually perfect, because I think you're going to see the same reaction in the brain, this kind of like panic reaction or aversion reaction, or anyways, it's going to be the amygdala is going to be triggered in both the left and the right, because you've got leftists who are triggered by certain propos, and you've got the right that are triggered by certain propos. I think dividing the line between left and right, I think it's almost illusory. Because I think the line should be driven. Really, the line should be between people of a rational mindset and people who are they're reacting, not thinking.
Well, and that's the other part too, is to also have as like a control group somebody who maybe looks at both sides of it and goes, "You're all nuts."
That's basically our conclusion right now, no?
Well, yeah, exactly. So I mean, you want to use me for a test, to be the control group? Fine, hook me up. I've been in enough of these diagnostic machines to know how they work.
Well, you can do that independently. You can just basically fact check everything, and from not independently. What I want to say, what's the word? Subversive.
Sure, go with that.
No, it's not. No, subjective, objective, but as objectively as possible. Because if you just fact check, you can trace everything back to its source. If somebody's proposal is based in reason, it's going to hook up to something in reality. But if somebody's proposal is as far back as you can go, is just somebody else said this, and I believe them. Wow.
Yeah, Brigid, I want to kind of hit you up on this a little bit, because this is suddenly a very fascinating thing. I know that you don't have any specialty with fMRI readings or machinery or anything like that, but I want to kind of tap you on this one from the idea of being for lack of a better way of putting it, being a much more blue personality in a much more red environment. That sounds about right for you, your overall position, I think. Probably, hon. You did say that you were back.
Sorry.
There you are.
Yeah, I was back. Sorry, I just forgot to unmute.
That's okay. I mean, I've pretty well stated this out correctly for you, right?
Yeah. My husband, daughter, and I feel like tiny blue dots in a sea of red, and it's really frustrating.
Okay, so here's the reason why I wanted to ask you about this one. Going under the idea of, if we were to use fMRI in order to watch how people reacted who were otherwise left or right leaning individuals, watching an opposite group talk again, lack of a better way of putting it, I'm really wondering, and I may be kind of projecting just a little bit, but I'm really wondering if, as an overall, if it were averaged out, I'm being real cagey on this one, I'm sorry, those who were more blue leaning, listening to the rhetoric on the left, and I'm going to use the same terminology back and forth, would reflect more analytical listening of what was being said versus a red-leaning individual listening to a blue rhetoric, but that perhaps it would show, instead of more analytical, more... Now here's the problem. Try to figure out what the right term for it would be. I it's not the right word I'm looking for, but avoidance is kind of where I'm going overall, of deflection, of refusal to be even analytical, to be dismissive. I don't know what the right terminology is that I'm looking for, but I'm kind of wondering if you would think that would better reflect how the quote-unquote prototypical blue brain versus red brain activity might seem to apply.
Mm.
I'm kind of wondering if I've said it in a poor way too now.
I would think so. The most of the people who would vote blue usually have a better, higher level of education, and a lot of Trump supporters are white, cis, male people without any college degrees or anything like that.
I'm gonna piss off some people here, but you know what? Go ahead and write me and complain with me. There are a lot of these people that to me seem to be like the beta males playing alpha.
That too. And also misogynist as hell. A lot of people had a problem when Hillary Clinton called them deplorables, and maybe she shouldn't have, as far as that cost her.
But
when she said that,
but it's hard. But it's hard to argue with the validity.
I mean, she was spot on with what she said. They are deplorable, especially with all of the racism and the hate and anger and chance of lock her up, which they're now doing towards Gretchen Whitmer.
As a reminder, this was the mayor that we were talking about. Governor. Governor that we were talking about earlier, who just days before this was the one who was part of the plot to be, abducted, assassinated.
Right.
That the president has not said jack shit about. As far as saying you really shouldn't do something like this, don't do that.
Yeah, he hasn't said a word other than discussing it at his latest rally. Starting chance to lock her up. And it's like, lock her up for what? Asking people to wear masks? Is that a crime?
Trying to tell people stay safe. You remember once upon a time New York City actually took somebody and put them under effectively house arrest for the good of the public. Remember that one?
Yep. And people got really pissy.
Well, not exactly, when you consider that it was less than 50 people that she infected. And that was, if memory serves, wasn't that Typhoid Mary, I think was her name? And And at the risk of, again, pissing off people, how many people has this son of a bitch allowed to be infected through his hubris?
Well, give me a second and I will tell you.
You know what? I don't think that you need to. And I'll tell you why. Because if the number is higher than 0, he's a tool.
Yeah. But you know how we had gone over 60,000 cases at one point and people were freaking out over it and all of that?
Yeah.
A couple of days ago, our rate went back up to over 70,000. And only see it getting worse.
That is a all too appropriate analog as well. Mary Mallon, healthy carrier of typhoid, just no symptoms whatsoever. Spread it like a damn wildfire, and
refused to do jack shit about it, even when she was told, for the good of the country. Well, it wasn't the country at that point.
Well, after she was told, she literally used it to, quote unquote, punish some people, whether they deserved it or not. But anyway, not exactly the best superpower. Anyway, we are definitely looking at that kind of situation here in the, if not already, in the very near future, because yes, there are people that will catch COVID who are completely asymptomatic. Worst of all, we're out of summer. We are now on the cusp of fall to winter. We are in peak flu season now, which means all the more so, oh, I don't have COVID, I just have a flu. You sure about that? Either way, maybe you should put that mask on and maybe not go to...
go to the Y and put in your laps in the pool.
Yeah.
And the other question is, okay, I don't have COVID, I just have the flu. Are you sure? Why don't you go get tested? Can they do that?
Well, there are smaller medical places that you can go to these days that have been popping up all over the place because, almost like Starbucks. But it'll cost you about $150.
And there it is.
Yeah.
And in the area I'm in right now, it's a case of they're asking people like, look, if you don't think you've been infected, if you don't think you're around somebody who has been infected, don't come in to get tested at this moment because we don't have a lot of supplies. If you feel like you have the symptoms, you suspect you may have become infected, then do your due diligence and get your butt over here so we can test you.
Yeah, have your credit card standing by.
Yeah, I remember hearing about the privatization and monetization of some of these damn testing sites.
I mean, hey, it's worked for prisons, right?
Well, let's also be fair about this one. If you go through the government, typically they will be free, but they are limited in scope and you have to apply. However, if you go through the private sector, you kind of have to pay, but you, generally speaking, don't have nearly the same waiting list either.
True.
Yeah.
Which is a pain in the goddamned ass because it should be the other way around as far as to who is able to get.
Yeah, and here's where I put on my smug but not so apologetic toque.
Oh, and rightly so.
With the maple leaf on it. I could go, not necessarily tomorrow because the pharmacy I usually go to for that is closed, I think.
Sundays,
but
don't blame him.
But I could go into a pharmacy and say, I'd like a flu shot and I'd like a COVID test. And instead of saying, okay, you know, that'll be X number of dollars, it's basically you want fries with that.
Yeah,
Like,
give us
they will take me into the back room, and like this one pharmacist at the Rexall at the Peter Lougheed, who knows me way too well, and knows that I don't like needles because I had to self-administer them from stuff he gave me many times. You know, he'll take me in the back. He'll pop that flu shot in because, okay, best damn vaccine giver I've ever had. And I've had a few. He in and out.
Yep.
And he could also shove that Q-tip up my nose, and, you know, I could feel the burn and all of that. And I could walk out of there, and from the money that, you know, I would have had to pay in the States to get all that stuff done, I'd go get myself a coffee at the Second Cup, and that's still inside the hospital if it was open.
When I was up there,
which is not because of COVID.
Yeah, when I was up there in Toronto, and I was asking about the medical stuff because somebody lost a wallet when I was up there for an equinox, whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened it up because I was going to be like, you know, well, I need to find some kind of an ID that would, you know, be able to help us figure out who it belongs to. I started to pull out a green card. I know it's not the same thing. And one of the guys who was knowledgeable leaned over to see and was just like, put that back. Why? Isn't this like an ID of, that's a medical ID. Don't go, we can't do anything with that. Leave it alone. Put it back in. Oh, okay. So yeah, for you guys, it's like, yeah, but the point of it is, it's a matter of, you've got your medical card. Okay. Let's just go ahead and check it. Boom. Okay. Let's get what you need done. Boom. Done.
Yeah. Now that goes to,
I know it's a gift card. I don't care. You know,
no, but that's the baseline healthcare that I've talked about before.
But hold right there though a second. Brigid, if it were a matter of a baseline of healthcare, of even just checking up on somebody just to see how are your levels or stuff, are you within certain parameters to growing up right? Are you you know, quick and dirty kind of things versus, nah, man, just, you know, you're on your own. As a medical professional, which one do you think would be better servicing the society at large?
The preventive care for sure. Preventive care lessens the chance of you getting hit with, you know, a serious illness that will be more costly in the long run.
Yeah. Now, the reason I'm going there, Dalan, is because we know full well that there is a big difference between basically getting checkups and making sure that, you know, you're doing your diet right, you got your health is overall, your cholesterol levels are not a Crisco bottle, but, you know, it's not necessarily going to specifically help you if you break your arm because somebody went the wrong way around a roundabout and you swung your arm out into traffic. But, you know, you're much more covered than we would be, and that's for damn sure for something like that. Stupid.
Well, and it's like I've said before, you know, well, hell, I took a guy to a med center, which is, you know, one of these walk-in clinics that we have here. He had cut off part of his finger. And in this clinic, they took him in the back. They patched him up. There was no, you know, it was like, do you have your health card? Yeah, here's my health card. Okay, okay, fine, get out of here. Have a nice day. That was it.
It's nice to know that super glue still works in these days and ages, you know?
You know, okay, the sad thing is...
I joke about that, but seriously, super glue is actually used in some medical situations.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah.
And the sad thing is, a couple of weeks later, I took the same guy to triage because he dislocated his shoulder.
Okay, you can't do anything with super glue with that.
No, but the fact is, they took care of him. He put down his health card to identify who he was. It turns out, okay, he's in the system. Good. Let's get him in the back. There were 6 physicians around him. It was a training hospital, so
good.
A lot of them were students.
God,
but check this out. X-ray tech to evaluate the situation.
Makes sense.
Anesthesiologist, put him under. 2 guys, pop the shoulder back in place.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
but what I'm saying
No. You're right. You're
is
right.
that
You're right.
is that you had an awful lot of people around him, a lot of people who were taking time out of their day. We were there for a couple of hours while this was going on.
Well, I mean, yeah, because those X-rays aren't exactly going to develop themselves. Oh, wait, they do now.
But all I'm saying is, for something that did not cost him out of pocket, that was an awful lot of work being done.
Indeed.
Now, when I say out of pocket, for that baseline insurance for Alberta healthcare, which again, that's I should actually go looking for, what does AHC actually give you? I'll look that up.
The old days where, you have the doctor come by, he has a look at you, and you just fix him dinner.
Yeah, I wish.
Or shoe his horse. Or
yeah, of course, most docs would take a look at my, they look at what dinner I serve and go like, we're missing something. What's that? The 10 pounds of vegetables you're supposed to have every day. Right. Yeah. Didn't get to the store today. COVID. Yeah. Anyways. But my point is provinces, people in each province do pay for that baseline healthcare. I want to say it's very similar to what they tried to do with Obamacare, whereas it was a mandatory thing that everybody had to pay however much it was per month, and it would get you this base level of guaranteed health care. Like somebody like Sanders would look at us and go, we need universal health care because that's what Canada has. No, we do not have it. What we have a structure in place. Yes, we have a tier of insurance, and I use that term loosely. We have this tier of healthcare, but we still pay for it. But people who work don't see it because it's just deducted off the paycheck. It's one of the deductions you can claim on your income tax every year. In my province, at the time when oil revenue was through the frickin' stratosphere, the government said, you know what? We'll take care of that for you. So that $150 a month that would normally be deducted from a person's paycheck, no, that's taken care of. And like right now in my situation, if the government decided to rescind that, I would be on the hook for $150 a month. And believe you me, they'd come after me if I didn't pay it.
Yeah.
So, but this is what I'm getting at is, and we don't have a choice in that. We pay for it and we get it whether we need it or not. A lot of people rail against it because more freedom or more choice. To which I say, buddy, if you're living the kind of life, like if you've got the kind of lifestyle where $150 a month is seen as an imposition or whatever, better to have and not need has always been my thing. I like the fact that I can walk into a clinic and not have to worry about my bank balance to see my doctor.
Yeah, and I'm going to pause you there because we're running out of time, yes. And there's a piece that I wanted to hit early on that we kind of didn't, but we're skirting really close to it. Brigid, 2 pieces about this, and one of them actually does line into this one properly. $150 a month, even ignoring the conversion. $150 a month US. I remember when my wife died, and I was continuing the insurance that we had at the time. Was reminding you, 2005, $600 a month and change, but round it, $600 a month. That comes out to over $6,000 a year. I know, just doing the simple math.
Yeah.
For arguably, everything that I could possibly want as far as to medical checkups and pretty much everything, but at the same time, $600 a month compared to $150, admittedly, let's round it up to $200 a month, just for argument's sake. Have you any recollection of seeing any plans from any group here in the States at $200 a month that will, just for anything at all medically?
Well, there are some junk plans that you can get. Some of my patients have them, and they're awful. They can still deny pre-existing conditions. Some of them that I've seen don't cover inpatient care at all, only office visits. And the worst one that I've ever seen pays a flat rate of $75 per doctor's visit, and that's it. And the patients left having to pay the balance. And I can tell you that for chemotherapy, $75 will not cover chemotherapy.
It's not even 10% of the cost.
No.
And she's younger, working a low-wage service sector type job. And how the hell is she supposed to come up with that money, but she can't afford a real insurance policy?
Oh, and the fun way that companies, because I've sat in many meetings where they try to explain this crap. One of the fun ways that companies like to sell it and pitch these plans is, well, the plan may only cover so much, but that's why you have an HSA card, a health savings account. So you can put in the extra money that you're not spending on the plan into the account, and when an emergency. Okay, so let's do a quick little math here. I make above minimum wage. I made a decent amount in comparison. I have a child. I have coverage for me and my child. 1 year, all of the a company I was working for, the only plans they had to offer because of the groups they decided to go with, not because it wasn't that they couldn't get anything else. It was what they decided to go with to save the company as much money as possible. Remember, the company is more important than you are.
Mm-hmm.
And even under the best plan, where I was paying $400 a month, and that was just for me and one kid, I still qualified for the HSA card, and I was dumping in out of pre-taxes as much as I legally could. And at the end of the year was spending virtually nothing on medical. It only ended up amounting to about $3,000. Yeah, chemo's a lot more expensive than that. How do I know? Because I worked with a guy whose wife went through chemo, although it didn't end up saving her life. But he had a different plan because he was on her plan with her company rather than our plan in our company. Of course, that all ended when she passed. But the case in point is that these things with these HSA cards and things like that, they suck.
Yeah.
If you're a relatively healthy person, you have really good genetics, you don't get sick, you don't get injured, and all the dice roll in your favor for the rest of your life. Yeah, it's money in the bank, but guess what?
Have a heart attack and boom.
Yeah, you're broke.
And what was really bad as far as mine is, and this is a true story, I was let go from my job because I was pregnant. And they told me
illegal.
Well, in the state of Arkansas, they said that their definition of employer was 15 people or more, and I was one of 8, and I did go seek legal advice, and the attorney looked for any precedent at all he could find, and he's like, I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do. They can countersue you for filing a frivolous lawsuit and end up you losing everything you have. And the wife of the dentist that I worked for at the time said that if I got an abortion, I could stay. As long as I was pregnant, let me go. And the dentist said, I swear to God, the next assistant that I hire will not have a uterus. And I had no recourse for that. So, I was pregnant, ended up, Cobra was $750 a month just for me. And this was back in 1996. And, so a long time ago. And we ended up having to do that anyway and had to put everything on a credit card to pay for my maternity care.
And those interest rates suck.
Yeah.
Unless you're already rich.
We just got it paid off a couple of years ago. Yeah,
if only prophylactics were readily available, talked about, given medically sound sex education to the masses.
Yeah.
People, not you specifically, but people who aren't educated wouldn't have those problems and they wouldn't go into debt. And you are an adult who knows what you're doing, and but the system is rigged against us adults who are not rich.
Well, back then there was no such thing as maximum out of pocket on the plan that I had. Yeah, there was a lifetime limit. If you hit that cap, you were just hosed for the rest of your life. And we ended up having to put $30,000 on charge cards.
Yeah, there's a reason why I wanted to hit into this really quickly, and like I said, because we're over time, unfortunately, but I want to get this out of there, because before we got on the air, Brigid we kind of talked a little bit about a piece of this, because the bullying thing, the ideological thing, the keeping people down thing is not just to groups of people connected via social. It also goes along with these companies. Mm-hmm. Because before we got started, Brigid was saying that there are these groups whose job title is medical insurance. And yes, we were just talking about them screwing the individuals. However, go ahead and tell them what you were telling us about payment out to the companies and the doctors and such.
Yeah, currently I have a patient's account that I've been trying. I'm not going to name the name of their insurance, but it's one that everyone in the U.S. has heard of. I'll put it that way.
It's a national brand.
Yes.
Dental or vision?
Doesn't matter.
I'm not trying to. I'm just curious.
No, doesn't matter. There are. I could name 5 of those national brands, just off the top of my head, and I haven't worked at the pharmacy since I moved up here. So
But anyway, the patient has COVID and was admitted in March and is still inpatient and still racking up charges, even as of Friday when I was working. And the major carrier has been finding reasons to deny payment and has not paid a single penny so far for any of his treatment, and he's still racking up charges. And who knows when he will get out of the hospital. He will probably wind up dying, and I'm really surprised that he hasn't died before now, because he's been in exactly 7 months. And I've been fighting them. I started fighting with them back in March for not paying claims.
Now, I want people to understand something. When I was talking about the pharmacy that I used to work at, my first job, the job I have based every other job against as far as to how well I was treated, because locally owned and locally operated pharmacy. When I left in 1992, I looked over the insurance forms and whatnot, because, we all had access to it. We didn't do anything with it. It was just a matter that, I could see the stuff. I remember adding up 1992 that there were easily in the I was going to say tens of, in the 30,000s of dollars per carrier. And like I said, I could still name for you easily 5 national carriers that we dealt with over there. And this was a locally owned little pharmacy. So my point to this is, and Brigid, you go ahead and you tell me otherwise, as opposed to how the way that Dalan has explained how it works up north, for us, the insurance carriers' job is to make their damned money by any nickel and dime, by any line item that they can circle in the rider, by any means that they can legally get away with, or even shady terminology they could come up with.
Yeah. The thing that gets me is they will grant pre-authorization for treatment, and patients get the treatment, and they'll come back a year later and decide for whatever reason that it wasn't medically necessary, even though it was, and take back money that they have paid.
That should be illegal.
Yes, it should.
Yeah, that's the underlined word there, isn't it? Should.
Should be, but it's not.
Hey, they've probably figured, when they figured out how to lobby for it to make it legal, well, if the banks accidentally give out too much money and they can come back after finding out about it a year later and demanding that you give the money back plus interest, they should be able to get away with it with an insurance payment.
Yeah, but the thing is, with the bank, that's an error.
Yeah.
And that's the way the insurance company sees it. It was an error.
We have to send in records and clinicals and all that stuff and get the pre-authorization. And I feel like, if they have given the pre-authorization, then we should be able to trust that they will honor it.
Now, like I said, since we're running really low on time, we're beyond. But the one last piece. We're talking about, by the way, over on the live chat, I just noticed, Audrey had said, Brigid, I really appreciate your work.
Oh, thank you.
So the last question, though, was that from what you told us earlier before we got started, this is how it's going with for-profit insurance agencies. What has been your experience with the government-run, otherwise non-profit insurance agency?
People who have Medicare, traditional Medicare, they may not pay as much as a major carrier would, but since the major carrier's job is to avoid payment and delay and things like that, Medicare pays very promptly. They're very efficient, and usually we have payment within 10 days. Sometimes it's within 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. And that was one difference I was thinking of. The difference between what Bridge was talking about before versus what I'm doing, or what I was talking about. This AHCIP, which I put a link to in our chat, that is kind of a Medicare, or would it more be Medicaid?
No, Medicaid's usually for poor people. that
Well,
can't qualify for
yeah.
coverage.
So, but the thing is for us, so like it is a Medicare, but it's government run.
Right. So
So yeah,
ours is too.
yeah, like things like my pharmacy plan and stuff like that. That's taken care of. Well, right now it's taken care of by Blue Cross, but it's all things like hospital stays, prescription drug things, specialists. For that, I'd have to actually purchase a different, like a third party insurance plan. So
Yeah, it's fair, Brigid. I think it's fair to say that what you have seen and experienced, if this was the general overall modus operandi for the insurance industry as a whole, which would you say is better overall for, well, what you see from a bird's eye view of it all?
What's the best company?
Well, from what you've seen, who seems to be the group benefiting the most in the best way so far?
Wow, that's really hard to say. Blue Cross tries to delay and deny. Humana likes to screw over people who have pre-authorizations. Aetna will require
Oh,
medical
don't get me started on it. Ugh.
will require medical records, and as we send claims for daily charges, they will not accept one set of records. They want one set for every day sent to them separately. And I can tell you that, for one, it's expensive to pull all those records and mail them. And I just don't think it's necessary. They should be able to have the full medical record and retain it and use it. And that's one reason why medical care is so expensive, because we have to jump through hoops like that to try to get reimbursement, and insurance is a racket.
But it sounds like from the way that you've described it, if you had to pick one of them.
And the major payers that we have, their negotiated rate, they pay us anywhere from 8 to 11% of billed charges. That's it. And I don't like any of them. They all suck.
But it sounds like from what you were saying that the Medicare Cade? I keep getting it screwed up.
The Medicare that people have when they're 65 or older, I don't have problems with them. And if they deny something that I think they should cover, I can send an appeal and they'll usually come back and pay it. And I can even take the records, print them out, print to PDF, so I don't have to use any paper, upload it to their portal, boom, done.
Somehow it sounds like there's something to be said for a group that's in it for the betterment as opposed to for profit. We're way over time, unfortunately. So I've had more than my fair share of time to talk. Dalan and I both really, and so Joseph, Tech, Joey, you guys have had the least amount of time, I think, vaguely. So let me get you guys one at a time. Joseph, what last item you got to throw in here for us to think about?
Yeah, stay rational. And again, I'd like to see the discussion more about critical thought or not, because I think that's really the dividing line. That's where the dividing line should be drawn. Because most people who can think for themselves wouldn't stand for all this shit. Whatever dictator is doing, whatever insurance company is doing, or whatever, if we were to decide amongst ourselves, build some sort of consensus about what's best for our own survival instead of letting the powers that decide for us and make us submit to them, all for the profit margin and their own better interest. Yeah, I think the world would be a very different place. You take care, sir.
Thank you, Ben. And I'm right there with you on this one. Tech, where would you like to close with quick?
I'm very emotional. I've got a lot of things going through my head with the whole insurance stuff, just because of what's happened to my family and members over the years with different companies, Aetna especially. Oh, I hope that company goes away. The dinosaur. Anyway, so I'm gonna instead of saying stuff about everything else that we've talked about, I want to try to say some good things here. One, be kind to animals. Okay? That's whether it's your pets, your neighbor's pets, the wildlife in general. Be good animals. Be kind to your neighbor, whether they're the person who lives next door to you, the person who lives the next block over, the person who lives in the next county, or the person who lives in the next country. We're all neighbors on the same planet. Speaking of which, be kind to the planet. Okay? Do what you can. Do even little things add up over time. Baby steps. You don't have to make giant leaps. Just do what you can. And finally, in terms of taking care of something, take care of yourself. Give yourself some time to have some peace and quiet. Turn the news off once in a while. We all know what it's saying. We've heard it over and over and over again. And with YouTube, we can go back and replay something that we've missed in case we did miss something. Give yourself some space. You may need time. You may live with people who need some time away alone. Go outside, whittle, weave, crochet, pick up a rock and just feel the texture in your hand. Something other than what's going on. And find some interest, something to give your mind some time to focus on. You need time for yourself, okay? With or without other people, you need some time for you to help you get through things, even if it's just to pick up a paintbrush. And you only have one color of paint? Well, put on an episode of Bob Ross. You'd be surprised what you come up with. All right?
Fair enough. True enough. And Joey, what last item you got?
I've been thinking. When life gives you lemons, no.
I get some tequila.
No,
I think he was going a little more portal there.
I think he was going a little bit more exothermic, but you'd be there.
I have been thinking, and it's something that I find somewhat amazing is the evolution of the medical field in the last 100 years. Because the only thing that outstrips the advancements that we have made in the medical field in the last 100 years, the only thing that outpaces that is the absolute bullshit of medical finance that has occurred in the last 100 years. I mean, some thought homework there. Go look at the two. It's numbing. No pun intended. That's all I got to say.
All right. Being that we're late and we, like I said, the three of us have had more time, I think, than the rest. We're just going to close it right here for the time being. So thank you for being with us tonight. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives. Please take very good care of yourselves as best you can, and hopefully we'll see you back as soon as possible. Joseph, again, thank you very kindly. You have yourself have a safe week. You know for well with the way that everything's been going out there. I concerned for you. So, just be safe, man.
Yeah, we just broke the record again. 30,400 cases yesterday. But I work right across the street, so not so much risk. But you hang in there. You all take care. And see you all next week.
Thank you, man. Tech, you too, man. You try to do, the best that you can. Stay safe, and just thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Sorry, I don't really have much more than that.
That's okay. Joey, you too, man. I'm glad we're able to have you. You just, as always, I expect no promises, but I wish you to take care of yourself, as always.
Get by doing what I do.
There's a Beatles song in there somewhere, I think. Still, man, thanks.
Yeah.
Brigid, you take care of yourself best you can. Just know that we're here for you, and we're pulling for you too and watching out.
Well, thank you.
Do you want to plug?
I don't feel like it.
Okay. People want to see all their stuff. Go, just piss off. I don't know. Whatever. Dalan, thank you as always. I really do appreciate it. You take care of yourself.
Yeah, you too. And I'm going to pull a Brigid on this one. And if you want to see the stuff we get up to outside of this, just go over to the website, holycrapthevlogcast.com, where you can also subscribe to the audio version of this show, which is up to date, I might add. Oh. So there you go.
Yeah, I do have something to add.
What's that?
And if you don't want to watch any of that stuff, I got to warn you, I just signed up for a Hulu subscription, and oh my goodness, the anime section, it's like my childhood all over again. Well, my younger years, I should say, not my childhood. Dude, I am so not going to get things done. Seriously, man. Rurouni Kenshin, Outlaw Star, Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, Yu Yu Hakusho, Dot Hack Sign. I'm not getting anything done. No, my next 2 weeks, I am going to be the couch potato to end all couch potatoes.
And here I was proud of myself for setting up the West Wing on hexadecimal to watch. Great. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. Please, seriously, please take care of yourselves. It's tough to get through all these times, but we'll do exactly what we've always done. We'll get through it together. And if it sounds like I'm quoting Mr. Rogers again, yeah. Imagine that. All the information you need is over at the website, like Dalan said. Phone number, if you want to leave us a voicemail message, 859-HCTV-554, 859-428-8554. And as I typically remind everybody this time of the season, if you're driving through at night and you're going to a highway overpass, please be exceptionally attentive to make sure nobody's dropping anything from overhead. If you're driving over said overpass and you see some people who look a little weird, there's nothing wrong with waiting them out. Worst case scenario, call the local constabulary and have them come down and take a look. You don't need to see what happens when 100-kilometer-per-hour windshield hits a terminal velocity gourd in the middle of the night. It's not pretty. So as always, everybody, you take care of yourselves. We will see you soon. As always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. My lady, 15 years plus on, I am still in love. Matane Fujin, I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we get together, everyone, as always, good night.
I need to invest in a new